Welcome to the Eye On Foxborough podcast. I'm Karen Guregian, and I am pleased to welcome Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com. She's covered the Browns for more than 3 decades, I believe, and she knows plenty about several new coaches on the Patriots staff, including offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. Hi, Mary Kay. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I'm happy to be here.
Um, First off, in talking about Alex, um, he was able to keep the offense together using, I think it was 5 different quarterbacks, and yet the Browns let him go. What's your understanding of why that happened?
Well, the official word that we've gotten is really just it's all about a new energy, new vibe. I mean, actually, they haven't even really said it quite like that, but that's basically what the idea was. They are gearing everything towards Deshaun Watson this year, and I think they wanted a coordinator who had experience working with dual threat quarterbacks, and that's their bent. That's what they like to do. And really, Alex is very steeped in the West Coast scheme. And, it's not that he's not open-minded or open to new things, but I think they just kind of wanted a dual threat QB expert. And we know that Ken Dorsey has worked to great success with Cam Newton, with Josh Allen. And, they just wanted someone like that who was going to be able to, know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to run him, know when to dial him back, and all those kinds of things.
Hmm. How would you describe uh, what Alex's scheme is like?
Well, it's a little bit hard to tell when you're talking about Alex because Alex did not call the plays.
Right.
So he was the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator under Kevin Stefanski, but Kevin was really running the show. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what Alex would do and will do when it's his baby now. And he's
Mhm.
only called plays for one season, and that was in 2009 with the Buffalo Bills. That's the only time he's ever called plays. So he didn't call them here except for he was in charge of the offense. He did call the plays during the Browns 48-37 victory over the Steelers in the wild card round in after the 2020 season because Kevin Stefanski was stuck in his basement with COVID and,
Mm.
and was unable to coach that game. So if you ever get a chance, ask Alex about that game because it was a really unique experience. And everybody's waiting for this game for all these years, and then your coach can't even be there for the game. So that was interesting. But I think if you listen to like Aaron Rodgers, he raved about Alex Van Pelt when he was his quarterback's coach in Green Bay, and he was very dismayed that he was let go at that point. So we know that Aaron Rodgers loves him, and the Browns coaches really seems like him. Baker Mayfield really liked him a lot. But I just have a feeling that there was some kind of a paradigm shift that they were seeking when it came to Deshaun Watson and what he can do versus what Alex Van Pelt is comfortable with.
In that light, my goodness, it would seem that obviously the Patriots have the number 3 pick.
Mhm.
They might be in need, or we all think they're in need of a quarterback, given how far Mac Jones has kind of tumbled down the tumbled down the hill. Would you then be surprised if they picked a mobile quarterback?
No, I wouldn't be surprised because it's the wave of the present and the future. So I certainly wouldn't be surprised. And Alex Van Pelt spent all of the past 2 seasons getting ready to work with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. So it's not like he can't do it. And, I'm not even 100% certain that that is the primary reason he's not there anymore. We really haven't had an opportunity to talk to anybody kind of behind the scenes yet. Some of that stuff takes place at the combine, but it just seems like, when Joe Flacco stepped in, it was like those two guys were, it was like a match made in heaven. They were perfect together. So, and I was actually kind of thinking, it would probably be smart for the Patriots to sign Joe Flacco. He's looking for an opportunity to go somewhere where he can compete for the starting job or to start. And Alex Van Pelt knows what he's all about and what he can do. And if you have a really good receiver that can go downfield and catch these deep passes from Joe Flacco, you can get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah, well, I've been an advocate of them bringing back a veteran like Joe Flacco because I thought having that kind of leadership in the quarterback room was missing, after they let Brian Hoyer go. As for the deep threat receiver, the Patriots currently don't have one, so that might not be a fit yet, but we'll see what happens in the draft. Um, Speaking with Alex, he did say that his plan, because we poked and prodded him a lot about the offense, and he said he was basically going to tailor the scheme to the quarterback
Mhm.
or and the players he had around him. Was that kind of what you saw in Cleveland?
Yeah, that's what they all did. They put their heads together and they definitely all did that. And again, Alex has worked with a number of different kinds of quarterbacks in Cleveland. As you mentioned, just last year alone, five of them. He had to get five of them ready to play. And he was the quarterbacks coach, of course, as well as the offensive coordinator. So he had his hands all over getting these guys ready to play. And he has worked with, DTR as a dual threat. PJ Walker was dual threat. Deshaun Watson was a dual threat quarterback. And then, he worked with more drop back type of Joe Flacco here. He worked with Baker Mayfield here, Case Keenum. I mean, he had a wide range of quarterback styles in Cleveland. Jacoby Brissett, Joshua Dobbs. So, you name it, he's worked with it here. And it's not like they wanted Alex Van Pelt out of the building. They did not want that. They just wanted, I think, a different person working most closely with
Deshaun.
for whatever reason. Uh, and so, yeah, I think that Alex can handle any kind of a scheme and any kind of a quarterback. It's just really a matter of where the Patriots decide to go.
There's been some talk, putting the draft aside, about perhaps even signing Baker Mayfield, who's a free agent, or
Mhm.
perhaps even Jacoby Brissett. You said that Alex had good relationships with both of those quarterbacks.
Absolutely. Yes. He was always in Baker's corner. He always felt like Baker had the potential to do some of the things that you saw him, and he did them in Cleveland too in 2020
Yeah.
to a great extent. But you saw, what you saw him do in Tampa this year. I don't think that surprised Alex Van Pelt by any stretch of the imagination. He was
Mhm.
always in Baker's corner, always defending Baker, always had his back. So, you could see that happening. And then Jacoby, yeah, sure. Jacoby's got, I think Jacoby has some starting football left in him. If you're looking for that bridge kind of quarterback
Yeah.
to start for a year, Flacco would be excellent. Jacoby would be excellent. If you're looking for a starter, you could actually go with either of those guys for a year. But I mean, you could sign a Baker Mayfield. So I think they do have options, and all of those names that I'm mentioning would pair very well with Alex Van Pelt.
You know, um, Speaking with Gerard Mayo, the new head coach of the Patriots, he talked about, um, he thought Alex was very good at developing talent, and he called him a relationship guy. Now, you and I have been around the block for a while. We've been around. Have you seen it evolve over time where coaches have to be relationship guys as opposed to, guys who are authoritarian, tough? Do you know what I'm saying? Have you seen that kind of evolution with coaches and players?
You know what? I have been through so many coaching staffs here that I have seen every single kind of style, every single kind of relationship, every single kind of philosophy. Now, Karen, it's so different from what you've been through and the experience that you have had,
One way, yeah. One way
right?
for 2.5 decades.
Right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I can't honestly say that that I've seen it be more dominant one way or the other or work better one way or the other. I've seen all styles and all kinds of ways for it to be done. And you can attract some bees with honey. You know what I mean? Like I've seen it, just run the gamut from tough love to, guys being too close to their players at times. So, So yeah, there's many, many different ways of going about it, but I will say that Alex and this is going to be different for Alex Van Pelt because he really is running the show now. And
Mm,
in Cleveland, there was always a sense, even he was great with us, he was great with the players, and they always really respected him and liked him. But it was always the sense that, Kevin is running the offense, not Alex.
mm,
Now he's stepping out on his own. And I think he's more than ready to do that.
mm.
It's going to be a different vibe.
We will get to one of those coaches that you've covered in the past, Bill Belichick. Obviously, he's been in my life for a long time, but I wanted to get to a couple other coaches the Patriots hired with Cleveland background, one being T.C. McCarthy. He's going to be their quarterbacks coach. And I believe he was the tight ends coach with the Browns for a while. What can you tell me about him?
Well, he started out working with quarterbacks here. So he was in the quarterback room. He has experience doing that. But then
Mhm.
when it came time to change things up a little bit in 2021, I believe it was, yeah, they put him on tight ends and moved Drew Petzing over to quarterbacks. And I was a little surprised about that. I thought TC would just move up with the quarterbacks, but there is a path that, that assistants go on when they're going to head towards offensive coordinator and then eventually head coach. And
Okay.
so they put Drew onto that path and put TC over on tight
Tight.
end. And
He's a
but
former quarterback, right? Yeah, from LSU, I believe. Yep.
yes, he's a good coach. He's a really, really good coach. He's a good guy. His players enjoyed playing for him. He's been around the game of football his entire life. And he'll do a really, really nice job there. I mean, his contract wasn't renewed here in a year in which David Njoku had a great season and went to the Pro Bowl.
Mhm.
So, once again, I think it was more of we want different vibe, different philosophy, different energy, more so than you did not do a good job at your job.
It's interesting because Gerard Mayo talked about having a different vibe and a different energy with the
Yeah.
Patriots and their coaching staff. Scott Peters is now the Patriots offensive line coach. He was an assistant with the Browns, I believe, the past 4 years. Do you think he was ready for the bump up or the next move up to take on the head role?
Well, he's going to have to be, and you never really know until you get thrown into that job. But I will say this about Scott Peters is he just spent 4 years side by side under arguably the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Bill Callahan. And there's got to be something to be said for that. For him to be able to absorb all of that knowledge, all of that wisdom for 4 years, I'm sure he opens up his mouth and Bill Callahan comes right out of it, right? I mean, all of his coaching points, all of his teaching points, that's all going to be Bill Callahan. And you can't go very wrong when you're emulating the best in the business. So I think these guys are going to be in good hands.
Mhm. Michael McCarthy is another one. He was listed as an offensive quality coach. Do you know anything about him?
You
He's
know,
an
I
offensive assistant here, basically.
Yeah, I don't know as much about him because we didn't really get an opportunity to speak with him. But once again, this was a really good coaching staff, and we were actually surprised that they blew up the whole offensive staff. They really did.
Mhm.
Offensive line coach gone, tight ends coach gone, offensive coordinator gone, running backs coach gone. The only position coach that stayed is someone that you remember very well, receivers coach Chad O'Shea.
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
sure Alex would have loved to have had him, but they were not willing or ready to part with him here. I don't know that Alex would have done that, but I'm guessing he probably would have loved to have had
Yeah.
Chad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll take the Browns coaching staff to run our offense. It's not that you had a bad offense. Not the most well, it got to be explosive when Joe was was throwing the ball, and it was entertaining when Deshaun was running it. But it'll be interesting to see how the two teams do. You changing from the people that the Patriots have now have trying to resurrect their offense. So It'll be interesting, I think. Um, I wanted to get to Bill Belichick, and you go back to his Cleveland days. I
Hmm.
think you know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Are you surprised he's still unemployed at this juncture?
Yeah, I'm disappointed that he is unemployed. I think there is some ageism that goes on in the NFL. I mean, even though it's Bill Belichick, it's Bill Belichick. Plus, with Bill, you've got to be ready to. I mean, this is not just hiring a coach. You're hiring an organization. You're hiring a way of life. You are hiring, an overarching paradigm and philosophy of how you're going to do everything. And so you know that you're going to have to overhaul your front office or just hand everything. You're handing him the keys to the castle.
Mm.
And you have to be willing and ready to do that. And not everybody's willing and ready to do that. So I think that's part of it. And then I also think there's a little bit of ageism that goes on in the NFL in terms of hiring coaches. Everybody wants the hot new young coordinator. So I think there's that because, Jim Schwartz was an excellent defensive coordinator for the Browns this year. And I think he would have made a great head coaching candidate. And nobody dialed him up and interviewed him for a head coaching job. Now, Jim, who was a disciple of Bill Belichick's back in 1995 when I was here with those guys. I mean, I started covering the Browns as the main beat writer in 1991. The whole time Bill Belichick was here, I was the main beat writer at that time. So I was here for all the Nick Saban years. The Jim Schwartz was here, Savage, Ozzie Newsome. I mean, you name it. I was here for that all-star cast of players, which, none of us will ever forget that time. Eric Mangini, he used to be a PR intern. I used to say, "Hey, Eric, we ran out of Dr. Pepper in the refrigerator." Or we need some copies. Can you hurry up? But
That's funny. Mhm.
yeah, so we laugh about that.
Later, a
But
head coach, Eric Mangini.
yeah,
Yeah,
soon to be head coach. We
yeah.
need, can you just fill up this refrigerator, please? I've asked you twice. Um, no, we weren't quite that demanding. But anyway, so yes, we all have, I think, very fond memories
Mm.
of um of those years because I don't know, there was just something kind of cool and special about it. And then when you go on to see what everybody became, it's remarkable to look back. I mean, I remember these guys when, I wrote a story about how, a bunch of them lived together in a little apartment and, they left the door unlocked and a raccoon came in and was eating their pizza. And, I mean, they just have funny stories.
Mm.
And there's funny stories about how Bill treated them. Some of those guys, he would stuff some 20s in the ashtray, where the ashtray of the car goes. And, it was just a different time. It was a different time. And it was the makings and the beginning of, just a really cool, eventual Patriot way that became a dynasty. And it
Mm.
started in Cleveland. That kind of, feeling and philosophy started for Bill Belichick in Cleveland. That is where he cut his teeth on how to do everything that he was going to later do in New England.
Do you think he's going to have to surrender some of the power? I mean, or just be a coach and let let the structure stay in place wherever he might go? Would he be even willing to do that? There's reports that say he would be, but I have my doubts.
Well, maybe you don't um, show all your cards before you get in the door, and then once you get in there, you're like, no, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
I don't know how he would handle that, but I can't see him not. He's too good of a talent evaluator. He's too smart when it comes to building a roster. I can't see a team only wanting him to coach. Somehow he's got to be involved in the personnel side of it as well to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, I think teams who are close and haven't got there, a team like Dallas, a team like Buffalo, a team, where, there's possible openings. I thought the Chargers would be a great place for him, but, they had their designs on a Harbaugh, which is fine. But I think a team that just hasn't been able to get over the hurdle or the hump, well, when it comes to the playoffs, I think Bill would be perfect in any of those scenarios. And I do think, he still has the on-field coaching genius, uh, to lift a team, that hasn't been able to get out of its own way. So, breaking news.
Now I just, I'm hearing a few little buzzes and I just want to make sure I was good to go. Okay, so anyways, here's the thing. Here is the thing for Alex and Bill, and let's think of who else. Anybody else who's taking on a coaching job right now or is about to take on any kind of a job. You have to have a quarterback, okay? You have to have the quarterback, especially right now. Because if you look in just the AFC alone, there is a renaissance in quarterbacks, and you are not going to make it very far unless you have the quarterback. And so you have to find that dynamite combination of the play caller or the good head coach and the amazing quarterback. And then in my mind, then you've got to supply that quarterback with at least two really good, amazing, can't miss weapons. So if you have the coach, the quarterback, and two amazing pass catchers, that is a really good place to start. And if you don't have those things, then for the most part, it's going to be a long road for you.
Well, it's going to be in Alex's hands to some degree, to find that quarterback in the draft. They might buy some time, with a Jacoby Brissett or whatever. But I think this is a huge draft for them for that very reason. And they're going to have to stockpile. They don't have the two receivers or the two threats that you talked about. They don't have the quarterback. We'll see where they go from there. But the Browns still seem to be in good position where they are. And it'll be interesting to see, as I said, how the Patriots do with a third of the Browns staff now coaching the offense.
Yeah, like I said, those guys will look much smarter, much better if they get that quarterback and those two pass catchers that I'm talking about. So if they want, if Gerard and the New England Patriots want to succeed, if they want these coaches to succeed, they have to get those pieces and parts right. And if I don't know what the offensive line is like there right now,
Terrible.
I'll tell you what, then you're not going to get anywhere like that. The Browns have a very, very strong philosophy of building tough through the lines. Offensive line, defensive line. They're very, very big on that. There's so much you can accomplish offensively if you just build the line. So, you can find guys and develop guys, and Scott Peters knows that as well as anyone. And I think he learned how to develop good offensive linemen from Bill Callahan. So hopefully he'll bring that talent with him to New England for you guys, for them. And then you guys will be good to go. But I mean, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have the pass catchers, you don't have an offensive line.
Yeah, they're in tough sledding.
Yeah, a little tough sledding.
Mary Kay, thanks so much for your time. I'll look forward to seeing you at the Combine. So appreciate it again. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.